Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope everyone's okay. Just wait a little while before others join, inshallah. Okay, is the sound okay? Yeah, can you guys hear? Remember, if you want to ask questions, you can ask questions on the comments, and otherwise you can ask questions on Facebook if you like. So on the link, on the post I put up, just ask comments there, inshallah. Okay, so let's start off with the questions then. So someone's asked a question: is it haram to talk to guys, just normal talk, no flirting or something like that? Generally, the issue of talking to the opposite gender is, observing haya, modesty. So when it comes to observing haya, modesty, it kind of differs from situation to situation. Sometimes you're in work and you have to talk to other of the opposite gender. Sometimes, you're at the shops, and so therefore there's obviously not a clear kind of cut line of exactly what you have to do. But what generally Islamically, I think you have to remember is observing haya, no flirting, no lewdness, nothing like that. So as long as it's professional talk, then inshallah that should be okay. But if there's no need for it, obviously then it shouldn't be done. Okay, salam. When we say men are allowed to marry from Ahlul Kitab, what does this mean? Okay, marrying from Ahlul Kitab, this is an issue which scholars differ in. There are scholars who say today's Ahlul Kitab are not the same ones as the olden days. There are some who say that it's open to all Ahlul Kitab so long as they believe that they're Christian or Jew. Some that say that as long as it's in an Islamic country, so as long as it's a Muslim country, there you can do it outside the Muslim country. So, this is a kind of tricky question because there's no clear cut kind of answer exactly what the Ahlul Kitab refer to. So, one of my teachers would say is that it's if you can ideally find someone who's Muslim, Muslims are best, because then there's protection there for your children as well when they grow up. And if it's someone who is observing Ahlul Kitab, they practice, then at least there's that you're consoled that the children are brought up, they're going to be brought up with morals and ethics. And then sometimes what happens is, someone claims that they're Christian or of Ahlul Kitab, and then they leave the husband. Yeah, they just become atheists one day, and it's happened a few times. So that's why, there is a difference opinions on that. Okay, when doing the talk on the Jumu'ah khutbah, should you sit down? By the way, is the sound okay, or is it too low, or should I raise it? Okay, when doing the talk on the Jumu'ah khutbah, should you sit down? You can sit down, you can stand up. However, the scholars do say that when it comes to like the khutbah itself, the Arabic khutbah, then it should be done standing up, and it's disliked for it to be done sitting down. And there are some scholars who say it's wajib for it to be done standing, except for the sitting in between. So it's best to be done standing up. And khutbah is something which, like in the Quran, Allah says, وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمَةً, like in Surah Jumu'ah, they left you standing. So they left you standing, meaning that the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he would give a khutbah, he'd do it standing up. And standing has more of an impact on the audience as well. Right? So when you're like giving a talk and you're sitting down, it's kind of relaxed, and they kind of get relaxed, and you know what happens? then they lie down, and then they kind of chill out, and it just becomes like a little kind of chat. But talk should be something which is professional, formal, and it impacts the audience. So standing up is best to do. And whenever I do a talk, I try to do it standing up all the time. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, salam. Could you please provide a good syllabus of texts to study Arabic grammar? Okay, so that, first of all, let's answer that question. What text would you study Arabic grammar? First and foremostly, this is my own personal view on this. Students should first of all be exposed to Arabic. So before you start Arabic grammar, you should expose students to Arabic, get them used to understanding what words are what. So understanding the concept of an ism, of a fi'l, of a harf. Like show them a text, maybe you can use Qasasun Nabiyyin or anything, and just like show them, okay, or even the Quran, and show them, okay, this is an ism, this is a fi'l. So they get used to the idea, and once they've got used to that, then what you can do is you can move on to Arabic grammar books. So maybe you can start off with like Nahu Wadih you can start off with, or there's two Nahu Wadihs, one beginners and then one intermediate. So you can start that off if you want, or you can start Ilmun Nahu, which is a Farsi book translated into Urdu, and then now you can get an English copy as well. I think someone's doing work on an Arabic version of it. So Ilmun Nahu, that's good. And then you can move on to Ajurrumiya. That's also something which is good. Hidayat al-Nahu after that would be good. Then after that you can go into Kafiya, you can go into Alfiya ibn Malik. Then after that you can go into the Shuruhat of that, like Ibn Aqil you can go into Mughni al-Labib. Then you can go into the more advanced books of Nahu, like Sharh al-Radi and the Kafiya. And you can go into books like there's some very advanced ones like Ibn Ya'ish. He's got a 10-volume book on Sharh al-Mufassal, Imam Zamakhshari. So that's also good. I mean, and then there's lots of things you can go into, specialize just in certain books. We specialize in like Asma, Ism, Bahth al-Ism, Bahth al-Fi'l. Okay, what adab and literature would you recommend to increase proficiency in reading without tashkil? My approach on that, I mean, if anyone asks me that, what I tend to say to them is this, is read any Arabic book that has no vowels on there and just keep reading until you get used to the flow. And what you need to do is regularly read to someone who knows tashkil, right? So when you read, it's like reading Quran to someone, you kind of get the mistakes out. So when you read the Arabic text to someone, ignore the meaning. I mean, you don't need to know the meaning, but you read it so that they fix your mistakes. So a lot of that, I would say maybe 40-50% of reading Arabic text is just correcting your pronunciation of the words. And a lot of the words repeat themselves. So, if you read regularly with someone, I mean, maybe a week, half an hour a week, you read with someone, hopefully maybe 2 or 3 months, you'd be able to read quite fluently. I mean, you might not be able to understand all of it, but fluency would increase definitely. So, what is the best way to learn vocab? I mentioned this before. There's 2 ways, or there's more than 2 ways. 2 main ways, I would say. One is by whatever you read, whatever word you come across, try and apply that in a sentence. So any word you come across, maybe let's say you come across the word adud, okay, which means strength or support or even a limb. So you take that word and you say qawwaytu adudi. So maybe you could say something like that, and then you apply in a sentence. Second way is flashcards, and third way is just speak it. Okay, English bayan. Yeah, I mean, you can do the English bayan sitting, you can do it standing, it doesn't really matter. But you have to remember that giving a talk is like an art, end of the day. Yeah, and you have to kind of know what kind of things, what kind of, hand movements you should do. The body movements, they're very impacting on the audience as well. Body language. So, sometimes you sit in someone's talk and they're just like really relaxed and chilled out. You don't really have that much of an effect in the talk. Okay, question. Texts that are one from beginning to proficiency. Take one from. Okay, so I mean, again, the normal method. I mean, the normal method that people use is like the Wa'idan was so Nahu al-Wadih. Then we studied Hidayat al-Nahu. Then we studied Sharh ibn Aqil. Then we studied Sharh al-Jami. That was the kind of approach that we took. So there are lots of books that you can go through like that. But like I said, if you go through Nahu al-Wadih and you go through Ajurumiyah, those are kind of beginner kind of books. Just go through the text, the basic kind of things in the text. There's just basic stuff. And then the second level, you go into a bit more advanced, apply tarkib, and then you can go into, and in a beginner's book, you can even use the Tafsir al-Nahu. It depends how the teacher teaches it. And then you can go advanced into Hidayat al-Nahu and Ilmul, what was it? Al-Nahu al-Kafiyah and Alfiyat ibn Malik. Okay, what would you recommend brothers and sisters who are interested in studying Islam properly to go abroad and study? If so, where? Okay, so if someone is serious about studying, they can study anywhere. Yeah, that's the truth. But then you got the distractions in your home, you got distractions, family, you got work and all that stuff. So what I would suggest, if you really want to study, either study somewhere. The thing about going abroad is that not everyone can hack it. That's the truth. So someone might say, yeah, I want to go abroad because they have this thing in their mind that I want to go Mauritania, or I want to go Egypt, or I want to go India, Pakistan, or Saudi Arabia, or Yemen, somewhere to study. But the thing about these places is you have to remember there's climate you got to get used to, there's food you got to get used to, there's people you got to get used to, there's teachers you got to get used to, then there's sometimes you got official kind of paperwork to sort out, visa and all these things. And sometimes it's a big headache. And I know a lot of people who studied abroad they gave up because they got fed up of all those things. So there can be all of that. However, if you are interested and you're willing to, inshallah, tawakkal Allah, go for it. Some really good places that you can study, like Egypt. Egypt's a good place to study. There are like Azhar University, not the Azhar University itself, because they'll probably tell you to learn Arabic and stuff. So you might have to study Arabic on the side. And you'll get local scholars. They have local durus in the masajids. You can study by them as well. Morocco is a good place as well. Pakistan and India, Bangladesh as well. There's some very good places there that you can study. But again, it's all about getting used to. Saudi Arabia is quite good as well. But again, it all depends upon your personal efforts as well. Okay, and sometimes some of these places, they're going to be a bit harsh in certain things. They're going to be a bit strict on certain things. Like I remember there was one madrasa that was so strict that students couldn't wear any clothes with collars on there. And so if you're kind of professional, let's say you've studied university and you're working, and now you've given up your life to study knowledge, and you go to these places and they're telling you, oh, you can't wear a clothes with collars on them, you can't wear a watch, you can't wear ironed clothes, yeah, you can't do all that, you can't have hair longer than 1 inch. Yeah, there's places like that. So they've got their own kind of criteria, strictness. So that's also something you got to be careful about as well. Got to get used to. So it's kind of what they call breaking the nafs. A lot of it's breaking the nafs as well, and that's very important when it comes to studying knowledge. Yeah, breaking nafs. I mean, they really, break the nafs. Okay, should study. What would you recommend? Okay, should study sarf. But if you're like really interested, what I would suggest, like, if you're interested in studying Egypt, ask someone who has studied in Egypt what the best places are. Now, I haven't studied in Egypt, so I don't really know. But if you get in contact with some of the, like on Facebook, there's some of the brothers on there who have studied in Egypt. So they'll tell you what kind of places are good to study, what scholars to study from, and give you tips anyway. And then it's up to you where you want to do. Okay, what's the best way? Should study sarf before nahu or vice versa? The whole point of sarf is for you to be able to do two things. Yeah, to be able to identify a word and for you to be able to pronounce it. That's what I say sarf is for. Two things. Main thing is identifying verbs. So you identify this verb. What kind of verb is it? Is it a past? Is it present? And if you really want to understand, like reading Arabic, just reading Arabic, you don't need to study too much sarf. You want to understand just basic reading Arabic. You want to read the Quran. then the verbs are quite limited, and so you don't really need to know much sarf. If you want to go into advanced books like Hadith, you want to go into poetry, Arabic poetry, then you might need. But again, it's like, if you look at these kind of kids books that they have, and they study like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, but they read it to the teacher. That kind of reading helps them a lot. It kind of gets them through, and they don't need to surf. No kid is kind of doing the English surf of ran, rana, ranu, ranat, ranata, ran. Yeah, run. He ran, he rana, he ranu, he ranat. Okay, so surf is, you don't have to go too deep into surf, because I know people who have studied Nahu inside. They've memorized books of Nahu, like literally memorized Kafiya, memorized Alfiya ibn Malik. But the problem is like application. If you're going to memorize so much Nahu and Sarf, what's the whole point of application then? Yeah, if you're not going to apply it. So again, it's all about application as well. So the main thing I would say stress on is application. Okay, what is the best way secure what you cover in class, teacher revision text? Okay, best way to memorize what you've covered in class. This is what I used to do. Okay, number one is, after the lesson, straight away, immediately, just don't talk to anyone. Immediately, just for those 5 minutes, everything that you've covered, try to note it down in an easy way to understand. Bullet points, spider diagram, whatever you want. Note it down. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, what you have to do is you have to explain it to someone else. Whether you do it there, whether you do it later on in the day, explain it to someone else. And the third thing you have to do is summarize it. So summarize it, meaning that make it like a khulasa of it, a summary, and make a summary book for yourself. So for every lesson, you've got like summary of lesson 1, summary of lesson 2. And this is what I used to do. If I had one of my books here, I would have shown you. I think books are in the garage somewhere. But if I find one of the books, then what I'll do is I'll show you guys. I was known as the khulasa guy. Everyone knew me as khulasa guy. So I used to have like khulasa of Alfiya ibn Malik. I made a khulasa of it and a lesson. So this is a lesson. Before the lesson, go over work. In the lesson, try to understand the work. So like, let's say for example, there's 10 things you're going to study. So try to understand the 10 things before you study them. Let's say you understood 6 of those things before lesson. So when the teacher teaches you, try to understand just those 4 other things. Focus on the 4 other things more than the 6 things that you've learnt. Then after lesson is go over all of it. Whether you do it there or later on, doesn't matter. And then what you do is once a week, the whole week's lesson, you go over the entire week's lesson. Yeah, so 1 before lesson, 2 is in lesson, 3 is after lesson, and 4 at the end of the week, you summarize the whole week's lesson. And then 5th, once a month. So what he said he used to do was with students. Right, with students, you sit down with students and then you test each other. You kind of debate with each other. So that's another good way you could do it. Okay, Studio Arabia, do abroad Arabic program 1. Yeah, it's done in Egypt. Okay, didn't know that. What do you think the greatest, most common pitfall students fall into so that they don't take maximum benefit? It all depends upon what you mean by a pitfall. So there's loads. It's like you've opened like a big can of worms there. So if you can make it more specific, what kind of pitfalls you mean in what aspect? Okay, can girls wear gym clothes in gym class like Adidas, something that is not tight on them? Yeah, as long as the clothing ruling again is to do with protecting a person's or covering a person's nakedness. So as long as you cover your nakedness and they're not too tight that they show those kind of private areas, then it should be okay. And if there's only women there in the gym, then it should be fine, inshallah. Okay, how would you persuade your parents to let you marry out of your culture? Yeah, that's a tough question, bro. Yeah, how would you persuade them? It all differs upon different people again. Not all parents are the same. Some parents are more open. Some parents just need a bit of persuasion. Some parents, are very harsh and very strict on this. What I would say is, for people who are in this situation, they need to speak to their parents, or they need to get someone else to speak to their parents. Just sitting there making dua to Allah that something happens, it's not the best way to go about it. You got to go and ask, parents. And it all depends upon the person you're getting married to. So if it's like a really good person, parents might be open to it. If it's a person who's got a bad reputation, then parents might be having second thoughts. Okay. So get another one. A friend is a teacher at school. During lunchtime they can pray Zohar, but during Asr time she is in class till Maghrib time. Is there any way she can combine prayers? What can they do? In these kind of situations, what I would say, if it's like in a work kind of situation where they won't give you a break, the best thing to do is try and pray Asr as early as possible. So there's that kind of leeway, you've studied Fiqh, so therefore if you pray Qada, at least you've and some would say that no, you can do Jumu'ah, you can do combined day, because that's like a situation where there's udhr. So because of udhr, some would say. So what I would say is that kind of situation, the person looks at their own personal situation, look at the timing, see how much flexibility they've got, and they should just do that. Okay, being a beginner level student of Arabic, book 3 Medina with Qasas, what books do you recommend after? And what kind of proficiency does it take to be able to read books like Fathul Bari? Okay, Fathul Bari, oh, mashallah. Right, first of all, let's try to break this one question into all of its parts. So, right, what should you study after that? So after you study Medina books, now what you need to study is a formal Nahu book, which just goes through rules and application. Yeah, so rules and application, go through that. So you can study something like Hidayat al-Nahu. You can study Al-Ajurumiyya, advanced level 1. Maybe like with a sharh, a good sharh with it. You could possibly even, go on to Alfiya ibn Malik with a teacher. But I would say stay away from Alfiya ibn Malik for now and try to focus on understanding all the Nahu rules. So like in your mind, map out all of Nahu, Ism, Fi'l, Harf, and then Ism breaks down to all of these things. And then try to figure out all the Isms, all the rules for Isms. Like you got Ism, I break it down into like 21 types of Ism that you get out there. It's broken down into Ism Mabni and Ism al-Mu'rab, and then Mu'rab becomes Masdar, and then Jamid and Mushtaq, and then you break all the 21 types down. And then focus on that, and Tarkib. Focus on Tarkib I'rab, trying to break down each sentence into its components. So because in Nahu, remember, in Nahu, some people go so much into Nahu that they know so much theory, but they don't know how to apply it. And that's wrong as well. So like I said to you, I used to know guys and they used to like memorize Nahu. Literally they had memorized Kafiyah, memorized Alfiya ibn Malik, memorized these big books. But then when you give them a text and say, okay, can you just like sort this out for me? They wouldn't be able to do a thing. So you don't want to do that. So focus on that, inshallah. Okay, and what kind of proficiency does it take to be able to read books? Fathul Bari. See, the books Fathul Bari, it's an academic book, and things with academic books is it's not just Arabic grammar. It's not just Arabic grammar that's going to help you. You need to know, Arabic, like the sciences as well. You need to know the science of Hadith. You need to know the science of Usul Hadith. You need to know, other related topics as well to be able to understand. Fathul Bari is like. It's the Arabic is not difficult in Fathul Bari, very very easy, I would say, but the content is difficult because it's like, imagine it like a PhD level it's been written at, masters or PhD level it's been written at. So there's lots of pre-knowledge that you have to gain in order to be able to understand that, if that makes sense. I don't know. So Fathul Bari is a long shot, bro. Yeah, you're like shooting for the moon there. So Fathul Bari, you need lots of sciences to be able to understand that. I know scholars who find reading Fathul Bari really complex, difficult. And like Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmir rahimahullah, he mentions that that Fathul Bari is the most amazing sharh that has ever been written on a hadith book. And he says if only someone had written a tafsir of the Quran like Fathul Bari is a tafsir of Bukhari. Okay, so which books on Seerah of the Prophet and the Sahaba would you recommend? Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and on the Sahaba. Again, Seerah books, Sheikh, I think it's Sheikh Al-Idris Khan Delvi. See, Sheikh Idris Khan Delvi, you know his books, if you can get them, very, very good books. He wasn't that well known, as in, like a lot of people might not know of him, but he's written some very deep books. So he's got like a commentary on Mishkat, it's called Al-Ta'liq Al-Sabih, it's called. And he's also got commentaries on other books that he's written. So he actually he's written a book on Seerah, it's in Urdu, 3 volumes, but he writes in there that Seerah books are of 2 types. One which talks about the kind of spiritual element of the Seerah, and one which talks just a historic evaluation of the Seerah. So he said that his book actually combines both. So it depends which aspect of Seerah. If you're looking at Seerah events, when events exactly occurred, and authenticity of those events, then like Ibn Hisham is very good. But again, Ibn Hisham sometimes it can become a bit complex. There's also what other book is there? Books like Qasasun Nabiyyin, these kind of books, they give you an overall view. Nur al-Yaqeen is very good. Okay, the Arabic is very good, mashallah. So it'll help you in your Arabic. That's very good. Al-Seerah Al-Halabiyya is very good as well. So there's quite a few books. Rahiq al-Makhtoom is quite good in that sense, going over it historically. But that Seerah al-Mustafa by Sheikh Idris Khan Delvi, that's very good, I would say. It's combined between like historic, and it's got like very spiritual kind of elements he's taken out as well. Very good. So, and then he also looks at what other scholars have done and criticizes certain things which have been mentioned. So that's a good. Okay, is watching movies and shows haram? Is watching movies and shows haram? I mean, that's, again, it all goes down to what you watch. So if it's something that contains nudity, if it's something that contains obscene language, if it's something that wastes your time from praying salat and you don't pray your salat and just watch those, and there's lots of music going on, there's lots of bad kind of things, lewd things, content in there which is not appropriate for people, and that can put their iman into doubt as well. Sometimes they bring certain things which make you doubtful about Allah and about Islam. Then those kind of things a person shouldn't watch, save their iman. But if it's something which is beneficial, something which is like not the content isn't bad, then inshallah there's some scope there. Okay, is the niqab wajib? Again, this is an ikhtilafi issue about the niqab being wajib. Those who say the niqab is not wajib is say it doesn't come under what we call the nakedness of the body. And those who say that the niqab is wajib is because they say it's the issue of attraction. So attraction, the Quran, it emphasizes a lot on women not attracting others towards themselves. Like the Quran says things like وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَ بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ, the women should not hit their feet on the ground, لِيُعْلَمْنَ مَا يُخْفِينَ مِنْ زِينَتِهِنَّ, so that other people know what they're hiding. Like they used to wear those what they called ankle bracelets, anklets or whatever, the big ones you had. So you get ones that make lots of noise, ching 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 ching, when the women are walking around, ching ching noise. So those kind of cause attraction. People turn their heads, they want to know who's walking and things like that. So the main thing is, it goes down to is attraction. So if a woman's face is causing attraction for other people, which is going to walk by every single day, then that is something. So they say that she should avoid exposing her face or minimize it as much as possible. Okay, so in detailed texts, I mean, this isn't a fatwa, guys, a question answer, but it's not a fatwa. I'm not giving fatwas here. I'm just gonna give you, the general kind of opinions. In detailed texts, e.g. Hidayah, there is a lot of overwhelming detail. What should students should students learn the proofs or usul points? Okay, in Hidayah, what I would say is this. Number 1, in Hidayah, break down the masla. That's the first thing. Number 2 is understand the ikhtilafs. What ikhtilafs is he talking about? That's the second thing. Number 3 is identify the dalil for each ikhtilaf, and the dalils will be in several kind of ways. Sometimes you'll have like a dalil which is Quran Sunnah based. Sometimes you'll have a dalil which is Sahabi based. Sometimes you'll have a logical dalil, based on logic and qiyas. And then sometimes what it'll have what we call a supporting dalil, just like a long shot supporting dalil. Like for example, the masla of in Hidayah, there comes the masla of what's an example? Okay, anyway, some masala will come to my head. And so then you break it down like that. And then what you have in Hidayah is sometimes Imam Hidayah's preference. That's something to remember. What's Imam Hidayah's preference? So that he'll say al-fatwa ala hadha, or hadha huwa sahih, hadha huwa al-asah. That's like the reason why you want to study Hidayah, to really understand his, that's kind of his indication that he prefers this masala. So that's what Hidayah is all about, really. So the masala, you should have understood it from Quduri anyway. So all you want to focus on is what the Hanafi's proof is, like what the Hanafi ulama's proof is, or whatever, Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Muhammad, or whoever. And you want to understand what Imam, like Hidayah's label is, like he labels it as this being asah or sahih. That's what you want to focus on. I mean, if you can understand every single thing that he says in there, yeah, alhamdulillah, but that's difficult. You won't be able to get that. I mean, I find it extremely difficult to memorize every single point in Hidayah. Because sometimes the masala that he mentions, like he goes into 10, 15 different issues. So it's kind of difficult to try and grasp all of that. So, and then you have to understand that Hidayah isn't like the main book in the Hanafi madhab. It's just one of the books. And then there's many other books later on that came that did rebuttals on Hidayah and didn't take the opinion. Okay, what do you think about studying Alimia course online, example ZAO Academy on Nurul Ilm, which are taught by scholars such as Sheikh Tawqir Guidance? Again, I don't know about these courses per se. Generally, I know about them. I don't know about that in detail. What I would say is, when you're studying ilm, there's two things that you want to gain. Two things. Number one is you want to gain adab. Right? You want to gain adab. You want to gain suhba, or benefit from the character of the teacher. You want to, the teacher to be able to spot the mistakes in you, basically, so you become a better person. Yeah, that's a very important. If you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, the suhba of the Sahaba was through this. Stayed in his company, they learned from him. He would criticize them for things that they would say or do, and that's how they improved. That's like a very important thing if you want to become a better person, is to like mold yourself into the right form, or qualify yourself for that. So later on, what happens is that you're able to appreciate Islam and practice it in the best way possible. The second thing in studying knowledge is the knowledge that you gain through a chain. So you study from your teacher, who's got it from his teacher, who's got it from his teacher, etc., all the way down the line. So these are the two things. So if you divorce these two things from each other, like let's say you just focus on adab, then that's good. Like some tariqas will do that. Tasawwuf tariqas will do that. They just focus on adab. So they're like specialized just in like becoming, perfecting that aspect. And then you get some institutes which just focus on knowledge. They don't care about what the students do outside, or how they behave, or what they wear, or how they speak. They don't really bother about that. So it becomes more like a university kind of style. So those are two extremes there. So you want to kind of balance between the two. That's the best way. So the online thing is this. Sometimes the student doesn't realize how much he needs to improve his own character. He doesn't realize it. So he thinks to himself he could be like, I'm the best person here. And because the teacher's not criticizing him, then it kind of like one of those helium balloons just flies up in the sky. And then you're kind of equipping him with lots of knowledge. And then what that knowledge can do is just become very dangerous as well. It's like giving a little child the AK-47. Yeah, he's not equipped for it, and then you give him that. No problem. So that's the problem with studying in these. But what I would say in online is this: if it's difficult for you to benefit from like a live lesson, like there and there, then online is the next best thing. Go for it, inshallah. And what I would suggest is, if you're studying online, always keep in contact with your teacher. Phone them, maybe meet them occasionally, sit with them. So benefit from that. If you can't benefit from those teachers, sit with some other ulama, so you can benefit from them as well. So you don't become deprived in either of the aspects. Okay, what books are students typically required to memorize as students, especially in terms of proofs of hadith? Okay, so when it comes to studying what types of books, my teacher would say this, Sheikh Thaqib would say this, that in his days, they were expected to memorize one text of each science. So like in Sarf, they would memorize a text. They would usually memorize a Shafiyah, which is Ibn Hajib's other book, Shafiyah. In Nahu, they would memorize all the books in Nahu really. Like Ilm al-Sigha, they would just memorize Hidayat al-Nahu, they would memorize Al-Fiya, Al-Kafiya, they'd memorize all the books there. And then in Usul Hadith, they'd memorize Nukhbat al-Fikr, they'd memorize Tadrib al-Rawi. So yeah, those are the kind of books. So what kinds, especially in terms of proofs and hadith, what I would say, if you're, for example, like, let's say you want to focus on hadith, you want to Shafi madhab, then Bulugh al-Maram would be very good for that. Memorizing Bulugh al-Maram, excellent for that. If you want to, in the Hanafi madhab, then focusing on a book like, the Matan, you can get the Matan of Ilai Sunan, it's in 2 volumes. Focus on that. Or if that's a bit too much, try to focus on what's that book called? Athar Sunan. Yeah, that's very good as well. Memorizing that. What one of our teachers would say is, in Mishkat, if you study Mishkat, then memorize in Mishkat, like from each, like he has chapters, 3. Mishkat is broken down into, every chapter is broken down into 3 parts. So those 3 parts, what you do is you select hadith. So you circle hadith, you select them. That's what I used to do. And alhamdulillah, when I was kind of studying, memorizing them, it's not like kind of showing off anything. I memorized about over 300 hadith. I remember in Mishkat, and in Bukhari, I memorized about 400 or so. In Muslim, I had memorized, I can't remember, about 300, maybe 400. In Tirmidhi, I had memorized quite a lot as well. So it's not to show off, and it's just to encourage you guys as well. It's easy to do. Put your mind to it every single day. I never used to spend my whole day on it. Just every single day, memorize a little bit. And I used to know this one guy in madrasa. He was from Indonesia. He memorized the entire Riyadh al-Salihin, and he used to memorize it after Maghrib. So after they prayed their Fard and prayed their Sunnah, he'd go upstairs to his room, and just for about 10 minutes, he just memorized the hadith. And after a couple of years, he'd memorize the entire Riyadh al-Salihin. So it's possible. Yeah, very, very possible. Is it worth just going through a book of hadith just for learning vocabulary? Yeah, you can do it. You can use any book for vocabulary. A hadith book might not be the best because it doesn't have cover all aspects of vocabulary. What I would suggest is to read an adab book. Adab like Qasasun Nabiyyin, that order of Qasas is a very good order. Like starts off easy, then it gets advanced, and the last volume, which is the Seerah, is really advanced, that is. So you can go through that if you want. That's a good book to go through. If you don't want to do that, you can go through books like Al-Mukhtarat by Sheikh Abul Hasan Nadawi. Those are also good books to go through. If you want to go some advanced books, then Al-Manfuluti is a very good book. He's got some good books, Manfuluti. Mustafa Rafi'i, Wahy al-Qalam, others are very good. And they're kind of interesting, funny kind of topics he brings up. Like Mustafa Rafi'i brings up topics like summer had an argument with winter, and summer said this and winter said this, so it's quite good. Okay, alright guys, I'm gonna look at these questions. Okay, is it worth going to do? Okay, what is the level of knowledge of Ulum al-Quran should a person know before reading Itqan fi Ulum by Imam Suyuti? Okay, when it comes to Ulum al-Quran, because there's so many kind of approaches to Ulum al-Quran, there's a whole spectrum of approaches you have. There's the early Mutaqaddimin scholars who had their own personal approach to Ulum al-Quran. Then you have the middle between the 400s to the 600s, their approach. Then you have after that 600s all the way till Imam Suyuti's time, their approach. Then you had later approach, then you have a modern approach as well to Ulum al-Quran. Ulum al-Quran, if I get chance at the end, I'll just tell you a breakdown of what kind of things you should be looking for. Itqan is a very good book. Okay, but the thing with Itqan is, sometimes for Itqan you need to know a bit of Nahu, you need to know Sarf, you need to know Usul, some Tafsir itself before kind of going into it, because sometimes he brings up a certain thing. If you don't know some background, it becomes a bit difficult. So that's why some of these translations, I think there's a translation of Itqan that someone's done. It's not really beneficial for a person who doesn't know Arabic and doesn't know Nahu and these things, because they won't grasp a lot of things. And he uses certain terminology in there as well, which is not for beginners. Okay, so inshallah, if you mention Romani at the end, I'll try to go through. Okay, I heard that if my father touches my wife is my marriage broken? I heard that if my father touches my wife, is my marriage broken? Okay, if your father, if the father-in-law touches no, it won't be broken. There is like an ikhtilaf between the Hanafis and other scholars with regards to if a man touches a woman with desire, with shahwa, with arousal, meaning it touches them for sexual gratification, then according to the Hanafis, then it would be a problem. Okay, which is called hurmat al-musahara. But according to other scholars, it wouldn't, which I don't think usually would happen unless it's like a really extreme case. Is it easy way to learn reading Quran? Is it easy way to learn reading Quran? I mean, it depends what you mean by reading. Is it mean like from beginning, from alif ba, like the basics? If is alif ba the basics, then I'm doing some videos. If you go to my this YouTube channel, Roots of Knowledge, I've started a series there of learning the Quran from bare scratch. And otherwise, if it's more advanced, then online you can find some people who teach online as well, or locally if you know some person who can teach you, then that would be good. When you're learning Quran, remember this: one is you're learning how to sequence letters together, fitting letters together, and the second is learning rules of recitation. So once you've grasped all of that, the pronunciation, everything, the rest is the rules. And this is why Ali radiallahu anhu, when he was asked what is tajweed, he said ma'rifatul makharij wal waqf, knowing how to pronounce words and knowing where to stop. So that's my advice about reading Quran, and it's easy, very easy. I mean, if you do that, if you sit with someone, practice. I mean, the old kind of days where the Maulana would kind of teach and then shout at you, and that was like obviously hardcore. Most of us went through that. Not most of us, but a lot of us. Are we allowed to salam people by their feet? Okay, this kind of issue of touching the feet and giving salam. If it's like, if you have to bend down all the way, there are difference of opinions among scholars. Some scholars say it's okay if you don't do it with the intention of bowing. Then it's okay, because you're doing out of it, like your parents. Your parents are sitting down on the bed or chair and you want to kiss their feet, that's fine. Ulama says it's highly virtuous to do that. Highly virtuous to do that. However, if a person does it with the intention of bowing down, or that person expects them to do it, then they shouldn't do it. It's the same with, like, I would say, or similar to standing up for someone, like the ulama say that, standing up for someone, you shouldn't stand up for the Prophet ﷺ didn't like Sahaba standing up for him, right? So he was teaching them. But the ulama say that if a person doesn't want you to stand up for them, but you just stand up out of respect, that's okay. Like the issue of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, when the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, Qumu ila sayyidikum, that's fine. So about touching the feet, I know some, like, especially in the Bengali community, it's a very common thing, touching of the feet, and it's kind of, you can see it found in the Hindu culture. What I would say is try and stop doing it, because if it's just something that you have to do in the culture, then these kind of things, educate the masses. You got opportunity to educate, but don't do it like in such a way that you're going to break ties with your family. Do it in a good way. And if it's just touching their feet that you're not going to do, then try and slowly wean yourself out of it, your family out of it. Show them what the sunnah is. And a good advice I would say is this: what you do is, every time there's something in your culture which is kind of not really from the sunnah, then teach your family what the sunnah, how the Prophet ﷺ used to do things, and slowly you'll see they'll get more interested in that. And the only reason that people do silly things is, I've seen some videos of people doing sajda to certain people, like literally doing sajda. They do sajda and they get up and they kiss them and stuff. Those kind of things, it's because they don't know any better, really. They're used to that in their communities, in their villages, no one there to educate them. So, slowly by education, inshallah. Okay, opinion on layman having and reading the English translation of Sahih Bukhari, published by Salam. Okay, my opinion about a layman and reading Sahih Bukhari. I teach Sahih Bukhari, and Sahih Bukhari is a book which is very deep, and the hadith that he brings, if a person can understand those hadith, right, that's something which is on one side. And if a person can understand why Imam Bukhari brings a hadith, that's another thing totally different. So sometimes what he does is like, there's about over, I think it's 100 and something I listed points why Imam Bukhari brings a chapter heading. So the chapter headings that he brings, chapter of this, chapter of this. He doesn't bring it like how we would write a chapter, chapter 1, chapter 2. No, there's lots of his fiqh inside that chapter heading. Each word is very precisely mentioned there. And sometimes what he'll do, he's meant a chapter heading, and the hadith has nothing to do with the chapter heading. The only reason he brought the chapter heading is because the hadith contains a narrator, and this narrator narrates a hadith to do with that chapter heading. Like for example, once he brings a chapter of fasting, so he mentions the whole hadith inside of it. The only reason he mentioned the hadith, nothing to do with fasting, because the narrator of this chapter of fasting also narrates in fasting as well. So he's like a very deep. He actually, the audience that he has for Sahih Bukhari, the real audience, is for a very academic audience. But unfortunately today, because we quote Bukhari so much, that everyone thinks that they can just pick up Bukhari and just read it and understand it, which isn't Imam Bukhari's aim. It's not, trust me. His audience were the likes of Imam Muslim, the likes of Imam Tirmidhi. Yeah, it's an academic audience, end of the day. That's why a lot of people find it difficult to grasp. Why has he mentioned this hadith? Like a whole hadith, he mentions 3 words from it, and you can't understand why has he mentioned that. And then you got the problem of misconstruing what Sahih Bukhari says. So I would say, look, if you really want to understand the deen, study it from someone. If you're really interested in studying Bukhari, go to a scholar and say, can you just teach me Sahih Bukhari like once a week, just for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That would be a good idea, rather than just reading on your own. Otherwise you get confused. It's like reading a book on medicine on your own. You'll get confused. Okay, next. Is studying Alfiya really necessary for basic students, or is it only when specialize in Nahu? I would say, and this is what Sheikh, some of my teachers would say as well. They would say, if you want to study Nahu, then study all of Nahu. Yeah, there's no point in studying Nahu if you don't want to study all of it, because if you want to truly grasp the Quran's beauty, it's only in understanding Arabic language like the Sahaba used to speak it. That's the only way. Al-Fi ibn Malik, the scholar, mashallah, Imam Ibn Malik, was very knowledgeable, and he's like taken a whole big issue and he's summarized it just like in 2 couplets sometimes. So it's a very, very useful book to study. But you don't have to study Ibn Malik. If you don't want to study that, there's also other books that you can read out there. I mean, there's a very good book that you can get nowadays. It's called Ma'ani al-Nahu by Sheikh Fadil Samurai. Very, very good. You can get that. And that's like a really good way of breaking things down. Nice and easy Arabic. Okay. So in Nahu again, if you want to study it full. Are we allowed to speak to a potential spouse on the phone, or is this haram? Potential spouse, again, yes, you are allowed to speak, you're allowed to meet them. But again, it should be done in the presence of one of your family members as well. Yeah, so if you want to have a conversation with them, you can have a conversation with them, as long as there's someone else there. The reason is you don't want fitna. Like for example, if it doesn't work out, you don't want there to be some sort of attraction between you two, and then it causes problems later on. So if like you want to chat with your spouse, tell them, can they come down to your house, their house, be in a room together with someone else there maybe, and just speak with them, inshallah. As long as you're being respectful, as long as you've got modesty, inshallah, they'll be okay. Have you taught any books on Mustalah al-Hadith? Yeah, I've taught Mustalah al-Hadith. I've taught Nukhbat al-Fikr, and I've got some of my own notes from my teacher, which I took from him on the whole of Usul Hadith, and also Al-Dr. Mahmoud Tahan's book as well. I forgot the name of it now. Mustalahat al-Hadith. Okay, any good books on the topic? So again, Mustalah al-Hadith depends how deep you want to go into it. If you just want a basic understanding of Mustalah al-Hadith, you can get I think Sheikh Akram Nadawi has got a good one that he's written, a very short one, very basic. Al-Mabadi. Yeah, very, very basic. That's good to start off with, just to get yourself familiar. Because in Usul Hadith, just 2 things you want to focus on. matan and the chain. That's all. There's the two things you want to focus on. Understand everything to know about the matan, text, everything you want to know about the chain. So that book kind of breaks everything down, gives you the terms. And then if you want to go further than that, what I would suggest is study a book like Dr. Tahan's Mustalahat al-Hadith. Study that, number 2. That goes into dalils as well, so it brings an example for each one. Number 3, if you want to go further than that, then you can study Tadrib al-Rawi. Yeah, Tadrib al-Rawi, Nuzhatul, Nukhbat al-Fikr, which is a Sharh of Nukhbat al-Fikr. Very good. If you want to go further than that, deeper than that, then you can go into books like there's Al-Muqidha by Imam al-Dhahabi. Yeah, Muqidha, that's a good one. You can go into Al-Bayquniyya, which is poetry. Imam. You can go into Imam Suyuti's Alfiya. He's got Alfiya. You can go into Imam Iraqi's Alfiya. These are like really advanced books. These are. And then there's Al-Imam Al-Jazairi's Tahir Al-Jazairi. I forgot the book of the name. It's quite thick. It's about this thick. It's called can't remember that. Another. His name slipped my mind. Oh yeah, there's one book I didn't mention. Qaful Athar by Al-Hanbali. Very good book, guys. That's like a Nuzhatul Fikr. So these are good books you can study. I can mention some more if you like, but then it's just gonna whole list. How is tayammum performed and what are its conditions? Or how is tayammum performed? Okay, tayammum basically is like this. If a person, the Quran says this, in kuntum marda, if you're ill, or ala safarin, or you're on a journey, or jaa ahadu minkum al-gha'it, or one of you goes to the toilet, or lamastum an-nisa, or you've had intimacy with a woman, then falam tajidu ma, you don't find water. So in other words, two means of not finding water. One is you don't find water as in within your vicinity there's no water available, like you're in the middle of a desert, or you're in a building where water's shut off, or anything like that. And number 2, you're so ill you can't use the water. So for example, sometimes you get a flu and your body, when you put water onto it, just burns or pains. Or you're in hospital, you've injured yourself, you can't move and you can't go and get water. Then in that case you can do tayammum. Okay, tayammum basically is this. You can use anything which is ground substance according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Imam Muhammad. And Imam Abu Yusuf says no, you can use sand. According to other madhabs as well, Imam Shafi says you can only use the sand and the soil. So what you do basically is you touch the ground, the soil or sand, or according to Imam Hanifa, even a rock. You hit it with your hand, and then number 1, you wipe it on your face all the way there like that, all the way. Right, make sure you get all bits. And number 2, hit it again, and then you wipe it on your arm, okay, like this, and then like that, and that's it. It's done. Tayammum's in. Okay. Ameen, brother. May Allah love you like you love me. Okay. Who compiled Mishkat? Mishkat is actually the work of 2 people. Original book is called Masabih as-Sunan, which is written by scholar Imam Baghawi, which is a 6th century scholar, Shafi scholar. So he compiled a book called Masabih. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Just froze there. The connection's a bit weak today. Okay, could Ajurumiyya be taught to beginners? Yeah, I mean, not absolute beginners. It depends what you mean by beginner. Is it permissible to take out life insurance? Again, that kind of question a scholar would have to look into your situation, personal issues. I generally know. Because tawakkul Allah, inshallah. But then again, there are certain situations where there might be scope, but I wouldn't be able to say that at the moment. Is dua after salah in a group bid'ah? Again, this is a big issue about performing dua after salat in a group. Remember, the concept of bid'ah has to be understood here. What is a bid'ah? So generally, what I would say, easiest way to remember is this: bid'ah is something which does not exist in the Quran, Sunnah, practice of the Sahaba, nor is there any indication to it towards it as well. And to add to that, and a person does it out of getting close to Allah. Yeah, so if, for example, like a person, let's say, for example, they pray in the day, they prayed 100 rakats of nafal, or let's say, for example, they wanted to do a specific certain action, which is not explicitly found in the days of the Sahaba or the Prophet ﷺ or anything like that, then what you have to remember is, are they doing it out of becoming close to Allah or not? So like, let's say, for example, it's like studying today, studying in a madrasa, which never used to exist in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. People never used to study in like a specific place. It was scattered. And then studying all these books, and then sitting in front of the teacher and taking exams and all those things. So because it's not done out of, it's not done out of specifically out of ibadah, then it's fine. Okay, the issue with the dua after salat, is something which personally I don't prefer doing it. I try to, it's just to keep everyone balanced. So sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't do it. So that's, I mean, the Prophet ﷺ never used to always raise his hands and make dua. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he just make a dua loud, sometimes he did it quietly. So based on that, I would say just to keep the balance. Sometimes do it, sometimes don't do it. That's my personal approach on it. But to just say it's bid'ah just like that, again, it all goes down to why the people are doing it for. If they believe that it's necessary to do, and you have to do it, then that is like saying that something the Sahaba didn't do is necessary for us to do. Again, that's a bit problematic there. Okay, Dr. Tahan's book called Taysir Mustalahat al-Hadith. Yeah, Jazakallah khair for that. Okay, is there such a thing as bid'ah hasana? Is there such a thing as bid'ah hasana? I mean, ultimately, if you look at the concept of bid'ah hasana, like Imam Nawawi, he mentions bid'ah hasana, approves of it. And then you have like Imam Shatibi, Maliki scholar, who goes totally against it. There's no such thing as bid'ah hasana. It's all semantics kind of thing. That is, all goes down to wording, exactly how you word things. That's all it is. So, I mean, those people who say bid'ah hasana, they take it from the hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu, who said, "Ni'mat bid'at hadihi." This is a really good bid'ah. It's in the Sahih Bukhari. Yeah, so it's like saying this, starting off a madrasa is a bid'ah hasana. Right, as in, it's a really good thing, a new innovative idea that has been started. If you mean it that way, then it's fine. But if you take the one in the hadith where the Prophet says every bid'ah is a innovation, what does that hadith refer to? Does it mean every innovation in the world? Then that's a problem, because there weren't hospitals at the time of the Sahaba. There weren't big madrasas like we have, universities that we have today. There weren't like big masjids that we have, weren't domes, there weren't minarets that we used to have. And then that's a bit problematic. So we know that the hadith, the scholars of the hadith, they say kullu bid'atin dalala means bid'ah which is understood like, as I said, which is an act which was not done by the Prophet ﷺ or the Sahaba, or not mentioned in the Quran, and is done to assume to get closer to Allah, and there's no evidence of it. Okay, is Miladun Nabi bid'ah? Come on guys, Miladun Nabi is a bid'ah. Look, the whole issue of Miladun Nabi, there's extremes in there, I would say. There's big extremes in there, about this issue. And I would say this, look, everyone loves the Prophet ﷺ with the depths, from the depths of their heart, and they should love the Prophet ﷺ. Everyone is happy that Allah has brought him into this universe. And if it wasn't for him, we would be astray, and we'd, Allah has so much he's done for us and so much mercy he's shown us. So that we should enjoy, we should celebrate. Okay, the issues of choosing a specific date and then doing certain actions, I mean, if you choose a specific date, like, that's fine, as long as we don't assume, for example, like that it has to be done on this day, not on another day, then that's problematic. That would go into a bit of bid'ah. And then it goes to the what you do on that day exactly as well. Some people do some strange things, alright, and then that would obviously be problematic. But generally, I mean, it's fine. Doing it Rabiul Awwal is fine. Doing it on the 12th is fine. On the 8th is fine. Doing it throughout the year is fine. Inshallah, nothing's wrong with it. Again, don't fall into the extremes, I would say. Can Jumu'ah prayer be prayed at work even if it is not open to the public? Again, it all depends upon what kind of workplace it is. The whole concept of, not, according to Hanafis, not being allowed to pray in a place where it's not open to public, it goes down to the issue of the number of people there. So if there is enough number of people that can attend, like for example, there could be like, Mufti Taqi Usmani is mentioned about this, and he says about the issue of the prisons, that prisons is fine, and because although it's locked off, they have to lock it off, otherwise people from outside would come, and then people from inside might leg it. So the whole issue of bid'ah, not bid'ah, sorry, I keep saying bid'ah. The whole issue of closed Jumu'ah is if there's not enough people, basically. Okay, and if there's quite enough people, possibly. But what I would say is contact a scholar, tell him your whole situation, and then he'll be able to tell you if it would be permissible or not. Is wearing the niqab behind parents' back sinful? No, it's not sinful. Is wearing the topi customary, or is it a sunnah? Again, the issue of the topi, covering of the head, this is an issue that goes back down to clothing again. Do we have to cover our heads? Do we not have to cover our heads for men? What I would say is that it all goes down to the custom of clothing. That Allah says in the Quran, "Khudu zinatakum inda kulli masjid." Hold fast to your beauty in the masjid, meaning wear the most beautiful things that you wear in the masjid when you pray salat, basically. So when you pray your salat, wear your fine clothes. And in them days, in the days of the Sahaba, fine clothes meant, like the Mufassiri mentioned, shirt, trousers, lower garment, upper garment, and covering of the head. Because people never used to walk around bareheaded in them days. That's how it was. It was considered to be like a disgrace for a person to walk around bareheaded. Only people who used to walk around bareheaded were people that were being punished, or someone that was very poor. So covering of the head was something that was common then. But then obviously, like Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he even says, if a person prays, with the exposed head, with the intention of humbling himself to Allah, then that's virtuous, you can do it. So that's why the issue of covering of the head, it all depends on which society you live in. Like in this England society, 100 years ago, no one used to walk outside their house without a hat on their head. No men would. And then now it's become customary, actually not to wear a hat. So it all depends, I would say, on the situation. And again, some scholars mention it's good to cover the head, because then it goes into, stuff like imitating pious people as well, and imitating the Sahaba. That's very virtuous as well. So it's a good thing to do. Yeah. Can I get your number, please? If you email me, inshallah, possibly. But these things are numbers. I don't really deal with my phone too much. Yes, because I'll be busy teaching and doing other things, so attending my phone is a bit difficult. Okay, it's back. Okay, alright, mashallah. What do you do after you gave talaq but the wife went to her mother's house and isn't talking? What about the iddah period? Okay, that thing, what I would advise, brother, is for you to get in contact with like a local scholar, explain the situation. Generally, if a woman's given talaq, then she stays in the iddah in her house, in the husband's house, and there has to be that iddah, that period that she has to stay. But if it becomes difficult, if there's fear for her, if she fears for her life, her health, or anything like that, she can stay in another place. So it all depends on the situation. Is there any such thing as a halal mortgage? Is there any such thing as a halal mortgage at the moment? If someone did have a mortgage and paid interest and bought the house, is it haram? Okay, halal mortgage, this is an issue. Again, really, if you look at the understanding of the Islamic mortgages that they say, there's always some problem down the line. Yeah, if it's not to do with interest, it's to do with inflation. If not inflation, it's to do with like certain clauses in the contract that make it problematic. So I would say 100% Islamic, no. If someone did have a mortgage and has bought a house, is it haram? They should. That house is not haram, no. But the action that they've done, that would be sinful action, obviously, and they should just do tawbah to Allah Ta'ala and repent. Some say nikab is fard, which is fine. Others' opinion is jalabaya is fard. Is that correct? Okay, the issue with abaya is that as long as a woman is covering her body, as long as she's doing it modestly, is fine. That's what's necessary. Yeah, so I wouldn't say jilbab necessary isn't, because if you look at the clothing of the Sahaba, the jalabi bihinna, it's all different. The whole concept, if you go back in time and look at their clothing the women used to wear, it's different from what women wear afterwards. I would say, according to majority of scholars, as long as the clothing is modest for the woman, then it's fine. Any place that offers a halal mortgage, I'm not sure about that. But again, the wording more halal is it makruh to pray bareheaded? there are some scholars who say it is makruh in Hanafi madhab, and again they go back to the issue I said earlier on. But I would say, my own personal opinion on this, if it is an opinion, is that it would be fine. Okay, because it all goes. You say, you look at it this way: would you be okay walking on the streets with bare head, basically? If you are, then you know, like khudu zinatakum inda kulli masjid. It's just general. The ulama say you should wear for salat that which you would wear if you were going to meet a very noble person, or if you want to go for Eid. What would you wear, like, to meet your friends? What is the Hanafi opinion on working in a bank, i.e. IT position, in comparison to a cashier or manager? That issue, it all goes down to what that job duty is. So if it's a general job duty, if it's a general job, like it's such an occupation where it can be done in any place, electrician, maybe IT, stuff like that, they should be fine. Okay. So, do you have any Islamic book recommendations? It depends what subject you're interested in, brother. So Islamic books, if you just give me like a certain subject that you're interested in, maybe I can help you. Is wearing the tie permissible? I have heard some say they represent the cross. No, I mean, I don't know the historic significance of a tie and a cross, and Allah Alam. I actually heard that it actually came from Turkey, the Ottomans. They used to wear the tie. They were the first people to wear the tie. So Allah Alam. In that case, then it'd be Islamic then. So I don't see any problem with it. Okay. What's the main issue you disagree with HT? Wallahu a'lam. I mean, there's lots of things with regarding. I mean, I got people I know who are with Hizb ut-Tahrir and stuff like that. But I mean, there's lots of issues that that person can raise. Okay. What level of Arabic does one need to understand Quran without translations? And for someone self-study, what is the best method of learning? What level of Arabic does a person need to understand Quran? So the level of Arabic you'd need to understand Quran is quite advanced if you want to understand it in depth. If you just want to understand an overview of the Quran, then basic Arabic will suffice for that. But then there's no difference between you reading that and then reading English translation, really. But obviously Arabic would be better. So if you want to understand the Quran in depth Arabic for that. So studying Arabic grammar, at such a level that you can distinguish between ism, fi'l, harf, you can show a jumla ismiya, jumla fi'liya, all those things. And tarkib. Is it haram for men and women to pluck eyebrows? The issue of plucking eyebrows is a big topic. If it's hair between the eyebrows, it's fine. If it's plucking eyebrows to shapen them, then that would be something which is, according to many, impermissible. There are some I know who say it's okay as long as the husband's okay with it. But generally, it's something which, if it's done for deliberately to make them small, then many scholars would say no. But these kind of things, again, it goes back down to the issue of imitation as well of other people. Okay, can a person perform Hajj bearing in mind they have a mortgage? Would this debt affect them? They can perform Hajj, inshallah. They can, even if they have a debt. Do you have to marry a girl in order to do what? Or can you without getting married? Do you have to marry a girl in order to do what? Meaning have intimacy with her? Yeah, I mean, Islamically, if you want to have intimacy with a girl, you'd have to get married. Okay, married through marital relations. Should trousers be above the ankles at all times, or mainly just in prayers? Again, this issue of trousers being above the ankles is the issue of what the norm is as well. So if it's done out of arrogance, then it's haram. The Prophet said, anyone who has their garment lower than their ankles out of arrogance, then it's impermissible. But if it's done out of just a normal custom, according to the Hanafi fiqh, it's considered makruh tanzihi, which is like, it's not really good, but it won't be sinful. But generally, I mean, keeping above the ankles. Okay, what's your opinion on new study Quran translation? I haven't seen that Quran translation. What is the opinion on who should lead the prayer? Someone with more knowledge or tajweed related? Okay, who should lead the prayer? There's ikhtilaf in that. So according to Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he says the one who knows the most Quran, i.e. tajweed and correct pronunciation. According to Imam Hanafis, they say the one who can read the basic Quran but has more knowledge. How can I get access to a scholar about divorce? Hardly any scholars in masjid in Warsaw. Will an imam? Yeah, usually the imam is a scholar. Yeah, ask him. Or what you can do, if it's a divorce issue, you can get in contact with one of those what they call Sharia councils. So there's quite a few Sharia councils you can find. Ask your local imam, he'll probably give you some details, and they deal with all these talaq issues, marriage issues. Any general Islamic books for gaining better understanding of Islam? Any general Islamic books for gaining? Quran is the best book, brother. Yeah, Quran is the most amazing book. Besides that, if you want to learn about history, Seerah is very good as well. So read some books on Seerah, life of the Prophet. And a good one you can read, which I would advise for general public, is by Sheikh Abul Hasan Nadawi. He's got a book called The Prophet of Mercy. You can get it in English. Nabiyyur Rahmah. It's a very, very good book, and I advise you to read that. Very, very. And it's very motivational. His writing is always motivational. And that's something that a lot of people lack in when they're writing. They don't write with the intention of motivating. They write with the intention just for the sake of it. So he's very motivational. He motivates people as well. Okay, praying with a jubba which has short sleeves, is that makruh or permissible? Again, according to some Hanafis, they say it's makruh because in the books it's mentioned having short sleeves above the elbow is makruh. But again, it all goes down to what you'd wear outside in them days. So in them days, the clothing, people wouldn't wear that outside. Yeah, so it all goes down to would you be happy to wear that kind of stuff outside? If you are, then you can wear it, I would say. Okay, when I say wearing outside, would you wear it to like an event, basically? So there's lots of people there. Would you wear it there? Could you please shed light on the benefits on learning usul al-tafsir, and should usul al-tafsir studied by reading tafsir? Okay, so usul al-tafsir, when it comes to usul al-tafsir, there's like two things that you generally should study in usul al-tafsir. One is you should study about tafsirs, like a history of tafsirs, so historical analysis of tafsirs. You should study stuff like bits of Ibn Jarir, bits of Tafsir Ibn Kathir, of Abu Sa'ud, of Tafsir Alusi. Yeah, study bits of them. The second thing that you should do is also study the difference of the tafsirs that are out there. So for example, tafsirs are broken down to Tafsir Al-Ma'thur, which comes Tafsir of Quran by Quran, Quran with Sunnah, Quran with the opinions of Sahaba, Quran with the opinions of Tabi'een, and then Tafsir bil Ra'i, and then that's broken down into Lughawi and then other aspects as well. So you study that. So they put that all onto one side. And then another aspect of Usul al-Tafsir is the Ulum al-Quran aspect of it. Yeah, so you got Ulum al-Quran, and then you study in Ulum al-Quran, you study for example, different types of ayats in the Quran. The ayats that were revealed in Makkah, in Medina, at night, in day, in summer, in winter, all those kind of things. Yeah, you study all those. And then you also study, like I said, tafsir is being developed over the years. So then one aspect of Usul al-Tafsir is the linguistic aspect of tafsir. Okay, so how to understand certain types of words, where to look for certain types of words, like nahu issues in tafsir. So those you can find as well. And Imam Zarkashi in his Burhan, he's talked about a lot about that. And then you have issues which are to do with like modern issues as well. So like science, applying science as well. What's the positions on that as well? And then you got translation, the issue of translation as well, translations. And then you got modern tafsirs as well, how modern tafsirs approach tafsir. Okay, so you've got all those kind of sciences. Then you got an area of which is called the mu'jiza, i'jaz. What's the i'jaz of the Quran? Different types of i'jaz, different elements of i'jaz. And then you got an area which is to do with the different books of tafsir. As in you got books of tafsir to do with ahkam, books of the tafsir to do with aqaid, books of tafsir to do with lugha, linguistic. Yeah, so those are the elements, aspects. And you should study tafsir, usul al-tafsir. I would say you should study that whilst you're studying tafsir. Very, very useful. And I mean, I taught usul al-tafsir some time back, and the approach I would take was that. So I would teach a usul al-tafsir book, and I would also teach bits of Ibn Jarir, bits of tafsir, ahkam al-Quran, bits of Jassas, bits of tafsir al-Zamakhshari and Jalalain and others, just bits of it. So they become familiar with tafsir. Okay, sorry, I see you have answered before, but what is your opinion regarding the group dua after fard? Okay, I mean, I mentioned that one, so if I get a chance at the end, I'll repeat it, but otherwise it's in the recording, inshallah. Okay, what should we do about eating out in today's society? Should we stick to HMC? The issue of eating meat, what I would say is this, HMC is a very, very trustworthy organization, yeah, but it doesn't mean it's the only organization. I mean, where I get my local meat from, I get it from the local butchers, and I trust the guy, yeah, and not all of his meat is HMC, and he's a very trustworthy guy to me, so I just eat from him. So if you're if you're happy with that kind of person, then inshallah should be okay. Do you regard Taqiyuddin Nabhani as a mujtahid that can perform ijtihad? Also, is Mufti more knowledgeable than a sheikh? Okay, Taqiyuddin Nabhani, the founder of Hizb ut-Tahrir, I don't really know much about him, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. Sorry about that. Also, is Mufti more knowledgeable than a sheikh? The term Mufti is used for someone whose knowledge is at such a level that they can issue fatwa, and that's really a very high level. I mean, people call me Mufti, but they just call me Mufti because in Urdu, Mufti means someone who takes free stuff. So I take free stuff, I do. So if you wanna call me Mufti because I take free stuff, go ahead, call me that. But generally it's someone that's very, very knowledgeable, and it's usually someone who's very senior in age as well. It's got lots of years of research behind it. Sheikh is just a general term. Yeah, it's just a respected term for someone who has knowledge. Yeah, and in olden days, Sahaba's days, Sheikh used to mean old man. Yeah, and then later on, Sheikh became used for knowledgeable person. It can be small knowledge, a lot of knowledge. Mufti is usually specifies. Knowledge is more specific when it comes to fiqh. There can be other areas as well. Is there any reference in Hadith as to where Ya'juj and Ma'juj will appear and arise from, and what does it mean, the name? Ya'juj and Ma'juj, according to the Jumhur, majority of scholars, they say Ya'juj and Ma'juj is a Ajami word. So it's not like, it doesn't have Arabic origins to it. Yeah, that's why you find Gog Magog in the Semitic texts, Bible. So therefore, I mean, that meaning wouldn't be there. Some say no, Ajja is from Ajja. Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Ajja, it means to something that shakes and vibrates intensively. And where then come from? Hadith mentions the Prophet points at the east, and he said they're going to come from the east, somewhere in the east. So I mean, besides that, we don't really know. And scholars have, I mean, interesting that thing that Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmir rahimahullah writes in a few of his books. I think you can find it in Faydul Bari as well. That he actually writes that, and I read this in Sheikh Yusuf Banori, his student. He wrote a book, Naf'atul Ambar. It's about the life of Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri. It's in Arabic. It's very, very good. And Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri was very interesting because he actually knew Hebrew as well. He knew Hebrew, he knew English as well, and very well-rounded scholar. And he actually has an opinion that they actually released, and they're in the form of those who used to live in the Caucasus, the Europeans, he believes, and the Mongolians. Those are them basically. That's what his opinions was. Okay, what posture should I be in after Fard Salah when I pray the La ilaha illallah? I mean, you can be in any posture as long as you're sitting. You can stand if you like, inshallah, because the Prophet ﷺ had just mentioned that after the Salat, whoever says these, then gets that virtue. But I mean, ideally, if you stay in that posture, because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned as well that whoever after performs their Salat stays in their posture, the angels make dua for them and they get the reward of still being in salat as long as they don't break their wudu. And someone asked Abu Hurairah, what does that mean, don't break their wudu? And he says, they don't fart. Okay, so struggling with Quduri, what's the best way in tackling and memorizing Quduri? Okay, the best way, Quduri, again, any book, is first of all, before lesson, go over it. Try to understand it yourself. That's the main thing in all books. Try and understand it yourself. Number two, when the teacher explains it, just try and grasp the things that you didn't understand when you were reading it. And number three is after the lesson, you must go over the work. A lot of students, because they don't go over the work, they forget it. And then after that, ikhtilafs, you got to write it down on a piece of paper or jot it down on your phone or anything, just to memorize. How do we know if a scholar is a mujtahid? Are you talking about mujtahid as in mujtahid in fiqh, in mujtahid in hadith, mujtahid, because mujtahids can be in different areas. So if you can mention exactly which area. Struggled in Quduri with regards to menstruation topic, bit confusing. Also impure water. Yeah, so menstruation is a big topic, brother. Yeah, and I'm going to speak to your teacher. Why doesn't Shaheen understand? Yeah, so unless you are missing days, then you're dead. Okay, also impure water. Okay, I mean, if I get chance, I'll try to cover that issue. I'll see. I'm from India. I want to join Arabic course. How can I? Indian timing and UK times are quite different. Okay, yeah, I mean, that is an issue. I mean, it depends where you want to study, which institute you want to study with online. I mean, ideally, if you can find someone who's local, that would be the best thing. Try and get to study from them locally, that would be the best thing. Otherwise, I mean, online is the next best thing. I mean, I do teach online as well, but at the moment I'm not teaching a new course at the moment, but I will be in a few months. Okay, where can we find more information about the bio of Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri? Okay, Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri, there's a book called Nafhatul Ambar written by Sheikh Yusuf Banuri. It's a very, very good book. That's one. Number two is Sheikh Abu Fatah Abu Ghudda has actually written a bit about Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri in the beginning of his book Al-Tasrih Bima Tawatara Fi Nuzul Al-Masih, in the beginning of that. And there's another scholar that I recently come across in India. He's written a book, and I forgot what the book's title is called. It's in Arabic, and it's about Imam Sheikh Anwar Shah Kashmiri as well. Yeah, and if you remind me some other time, I can actually look for it and find. But I've read Nafatul Ambar. Okay, Fiqh. Okay, with regards to Fiqh, ijtihad fil Fiqh. When it comes to mujtahid, there's different levels of ijtihad in Fiqh. It's like basically this. Ijtihad, there was the highest grade of ijtihad is, like they say, Umar bin Khattab, like Imam Anwar Shah Kashmiri, Shah Wali Allah, Sheikh Imam Ibn Qayyim. They say that the highest mujtahid that ever existed was Umar bin Khattab, and the rest of the opinions of ijtihad that came later came from him. So he kind of paved the way. So ijtihad is all about an expert paving the way. So I would say, explain this, like the first person to invent the wheel, he was like the highest level of mujtahid when it came to inventing the wheel. Everyone that comes after him, any kind of innovation or any kind of new kind of aspect of wheel they bring, it's all going to be based upon his ijtihad. So you can imagine like all the major schools of fiqh, like the guys who kind of first started it off, like for example the Maliki madhab started off by the early scholars of Medina, Umar Aisha radiallahu anha, the 7 fuqaha of Tabi'in, Sa'id al-Musayyib and others. They were the main kind of guys. So they were the highest levels of ijtihad. And then in the Hanafi fiqh you have Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and Shuraih, Qadi Shuraih. They were like the first initial ones. Al-Aswad was one of the famous favorite students of Aisha radiallahu anha. Al-Qama, and then Ibrahim al-Nakhi. These are the highest levels of mujtahids. And then you have the Imam Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad Hanbal. So these were the highest levels. And then you have those who work within their framework. They're at a different level. So what I would say is, the ulama say that for a person to be mujtahid, they must know Arabic inside out. Meaning they must know the Arabic at the time of the Sahaba. Their Arabic level must be so high, it must be at a level which they can understand Arabic at the time of the Sahaba, because it's all about Quran and Sunnah. Yeah, that's the first thing they need to understand. Number 2, they need to understand all the ahkam in the Quran. Number 3, they need to understand all the ahkam in the Sunnah. Number 4, they need to understand all the aqwal of Sahaba regarding a particular ahkam. Number 5, they need to understand the ijma'at that were all done. Number 6, they need to understand usul of ijtihad, usul of tafsir, you can understand, usul of fiqh, you can understand that. And they need to understand their own society and malakatul fiqhiyya, they say. Okay. Secret halakha classes are fard, and students must attend this once a week for a certain group. What do you think of this? Secret halakha classes sounds a bit like Harry Potter. Yeah, why does something have to be secret for? It depends why something's secret. I mean, I used to have a friend from Tajikistan. They used to have secret lessons because if the government found out that they were studying, they'd be imprisoned. So he used to tell me they used to put their books into their trousers. Yeah, and different days in different houses they used to study. So it depends. Is it lack of adab to carry a small Quran in your pocket with you? I mean, no, I don't think it's lack of adab. You respect the Quran, inshallah. That's the adab. Can you do a class regarding Mirath Sheikh? Mirath Sheikh? Who's Mirath Sheikh? Milkshake? I know Milkshake. I know. Oh, Mirath Sheikh, yeah. Just joking. Mirath, inshallah, hopefully. I'll see, inshallah. I mean, I made some videos in the past on my YouTube channel. You can check them out on Mirath. But inshallah, yeah. If I get a good interest in it, then possibly. If the azan for Asr is called, should I pray Asr, Salah, or my Dhuhr, which is Qada? Also, can I pray the Sunnah, Salah, Qada, or is it just Fard? Yeah, if a person has missed a Salat, first of all, you should pray that Salat. Yeah, and then you should pray the other Salats after that, in order. This is known as Tartib. And there's no Qada of Sunnahs, except they say the Sunnah of Fajr. What are the virtues of the beard? Scholarly opinion on this length. By the way, my name is Zahid and I train with you at 5:30 p.m. classes. Alright, that's it, you're dead now. Yeah, I'm gonna catch you. Okay, the virtues of the beard. I mean, the virtues of the beard is, first of all, applying the statement of the Prophet ﷺ that lengthen your beards. That's the first and foremost thing. That's what I would say, and that would be the beard. And also, it's considered to be, if you do it out of love as well, then there's a love of the Prophet ﷺ involved in there as well. The lengths, it differs madhab to madhab. I mean, the early scholars, you don't really have explicit opinions from the early scholars, just lengthening it. And then later scholars have, Hanafis say, 1 fist, and others say that you can trim it a bit less, okay, as long as it looks suitable. Because sometimes the beard can become overgrown and it doesn't make the person look presentable as well, like Imam Ibn Abidin mentions this. Okay, regarding the 33 la ilaha, did you mean to say it sajda or sujood? Okay, I don't understand what your question was regarding the 33 la ilaha. Sajda or sujood? I mean, saying that the 33 times Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, is that what you mean? Do mujtahids in our time exist? Mujtahids at the time, like if you mean the mujtahids of the one who creates the wheel, then no, they don't exist, because all that early foundational ijtihad has been done. But with regards to like modern day mujtahids for our times, yes, definitely I would say they do exist. Alhamdulillah. The mujtahids will always exist, inshallah, for the protection of deen. I know scholars say smoking is haram and some say it's makruh, it's mubah. Is this a legitimate opinion? I mean, what I would say is, I know when the issue of cigarettes first came out, there was many scholars who actually were totally for it. They actually wrote books for it, and there were many scholars who were totally against it, and there were many who were quiet. The whole issue with regards to smoking is harm to your body. So the more you know something is going to harm your body, the more impermissible it is. That's the basic rule. Yeah, that's what the scholars say. So for example, poison is haram to take because it's going to kill you. So based on that, because new medical research has been done in recent years, in the past 100 years, that the the World Medical Foundation, or whatever it's called, what they say is that cigarettes can cause high risk of cancer, and it's high risk of early death, and high risk of all these big problems, lung problems. That's why it wouldn't be allowed. Early scholars basically didn't know about that. They didn't know about all this research. Okay, Qada prayer. Someone told me regarding speed prayer. Can you clarify this? Speed prayer. Oh, what's that? Is that a new film? Yeah, speed prayer. Need for speedo. Is it allowed to charge someone to attend an Islamic course conference that you arranged? No, it wouldn't be. Yeah, it'd be allowed. It'd be fine, because it's your service, isn't it? It's your getting the speaker, and then that speaker has his own time, and then arranging the event, and then all the lighting, electricity, and then paying for the event as a venue. All his services. Yeah, it comes under services. It'd be fine. Is it true that a person will be pulled by the beard and made to sit in the qabr? A person will be pulled by the beard and made to sit in the qabr? I don't. Why is that? Don't understand. Some people say the door of ijtihad is closed in our time. How true is this? This was a statement that was initially first said by Imam Ibn Salah. I think it was the time Imam Ibn Salah. So, but later scholars, Imam Suyuti has got a book. It's a very long name. It's called Raddu. It's got a long name. Raddu something ala man akhlada ila al-ard. It's a whole book just dedicated to the doors of ijtihad are not closed. Imam Suyuti has written it. So, basically what that statement means is a misunderstanding of what the statement is. Imam Suyuti basically says this. He says, when those who say the doors of ijtihad are closed, what they mean by that is that no one can come and reinvent the wheel again. That level of ijtihad is closed. That's true. So if someone comes and says, right, I'm going to start ijtihad from fresh now, I mean, you can't do it, because for example, the Sahaba, Imam Hanifa, Imam Malik, all these guys, they were people who were very close to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Their scholars were very fresh, the knowledge was very fresh, and one of the things that caused lots of ikhtilaf is the passing of time. So they knew the context of things very fresh. So that's why it was very easy for them to understand Sharia and give fatwa. But as time goes by, you lose all of this. All of these things are lost. So that's why, the doors of ijtihad, relatively are open. If you made money, okay, what books do you have in the background? Oh, loads of books in the background. Yeah, these are loads of books, man. Lots and lots and lots. Okay, if you made a profit from the talks you arranged, is that haram? No. It's not haram. Scholars of all the madhabs, they mention about the issue of al-ujratu li-ta'lim, and they say it's fine. Is this on establishing khilafah and legit opinion? I don't know, brother. I mean, I haven't really read up too much about HT, so I wouldn't be able to answer that question. What you mean reinvent the wheel in ijtihad? Reinvent the wheel in ijtihad basically means this. Like, let's say someone came today and said, right, let's scrap everything that the ulama have said in the past, and we're going to start from fresh now. We're going to start, I'm going to tell you everything about salat from fresh now, without taking anyone's opinion, that is basically means reinventing the wheel again. Okay, yes, this 33 subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allah Akbar. Yeah, so you do that in the qa'da position. Like when you're sitting after you've given salam, and then you sit in that position that you sit in, on your knees. That is the I would say the best position to do it in. But if you do it standing up, it's fine, because the Quran mentions الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ, those who remember Allah standing and sitting and on their backs. So it would be fine. But ideally sit on there, because like I said to you in the other hadith, it's mentioned those who remain seated in their places. Is a man allowed to look at a woman who talks about Islam, or should he lower his gaze? The issue of lowering the gaze is, if you feel attracted towards that person, you shouldn't look. So if they're covered up and you feel attracted towards that person, you shouldn't look. Guard the gaze, like the Quran says. Is there any specific Western scholars you recommend to watch videos of and books? Again, it depends what videos you mean. Like, does it mean like a talk or things like that? If it's a talk, then I would say, yeah, there are some very, very good scholars out there. I mean, you guys know better than me, man, which scholars. I don't watch too many scholars. So, I mean, the ones that I listen to or I'll watch is someone like, for example, maybe I'll watch Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, maybe I'll watch Sheikh Noman Ali Khan, maybe I'll watch Sheikh Umar Sulaiman, maybe Sheikh Zahir Mahmood. You know, these kind of guys, very inspirational speakers as well. Might not agree with everything they say, that's something else that is. But for inspiration, they're fine. For me, that is. Okay, and books. I mean, what kind of books? Loads of books. Okay, thank you. In the Quran, you're welcome. In the Quran, it says, no eye has seen Jannah or thought of it, but we didn't have description of Jannah. Isn't that a contradiction? Yeah, because the Quran says, the Hadith says, no eye has seen it, no ear has heard it, no heart has contemplated it. It means that without divine revelation, you could never understand Jannah. So it's true, no eye has seen it, no heart has contemplated it, no ear has heard of it, or no ear has heard it, because we haven't. The only way we know about Jannah is through Allah. Allah has told us. So I don't think there's a contradiction there. Okay, I'm pursuing Qiraat of Imam Hafs rahimahullah. Could you tell me what kind of books will me? So Qiraat of Imam Hafs and Asim, yeah, that's the one you refer to, is basically the Quran that most of what the Quran read today. So there isn't really a specific, it's just the normal mushafs that we use, that's Hafs. So that would be fine. But if you're referring to other qira'at, other reciters, then Shatibi, Shatibiyya, qira'at fil qira'at, that's the book, that's the main kind of book that is out there. What about Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad and Sheikh Hassan Ali? Yeah, Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad is a very funny guy. Yeah, I know him. And Sheikh Hassan Ali, everyone knows, is very funny. Yeah, and they're very, very good scholars. I mean, according to what I understand, I've met them as well. Okay, should TV be banned as more? I mean, I might not agree with everything what a scholar says, but generally, I'd say they're fine. Should TV be banned as most things are haram? I mean, your question, brother, should be, should internet be haram? Because most things in there are haram. That's what your question should be. Again, it's how you use it. Yeah, it's all about using it maturely. Okay, you guys are our questions there. MashaAllah, today your questions, I don't know, someone have done some dua and your questions have lasted this long. Okay, any other questions? Out of steam, yeah. You guys can carry on. I'm sure, brother boxing fan, yeah, with that kind of name, I'm sure you can carry on. I can only last for about 3 or 4 rounds in the ring. Sometimes I made a cartoon and biography of the Prophet. What's your thoughts on a cartoon like this? I haven't seen it. Okay, I haven't seen that cartoon, so I wouldn't be able to comment on it. I mean, again, it would be possibly like there are scholars who have given possibility of making cartoons, but if the image of the Prophet ﷺ is shown, then that would be a problem. Okay, what would be the ideal English translation of the Quran? Ideal English translation, there's one by a scholar called Sheikh Zaki something, Dr. Zaki something. It's called The Glorious Quran. Very, very good, excellent. That's one of the best I've seen. Very exact, as in not exact, but it's as close as you can get to something which is really good. So I would advise that. It's not the best thing, obviously Arabic is the best, but it's very good. Okay, my questions are very exact, mashallah. Yeah. Okay, the films of Message, are they permissible to watch? I mean, I've watched The Message. I don't see anything wrong in it. And some people say, oh, some of the Sahaba have been presented with shaven beards and stuff like that, okay, that might be something questionable, but generally the message that has is okay. The new one is good, that Omar series. That is something which is much better than the message. أحبك الله في الله يا مولاي أحبك الله الذي أحببتني فيه. Okay, salam. Someone had asked me, is it sinful to women cut their hair? Women cutting hair again is an issue. According to Hanafi, there's two opinions of the Hanafi. You have like the Indian subcontinent opinion, which is quite strict, which is they can only trim their hair. And then you have the Arab Hanafi opinion, which is which is long, it's up to the shoulders or up to the ears. What I would say is best for the woman to do according to her culture and custom. So I mean, some cultures are very strict on the hair issue, so just do it according to that. What do you say of Yusuf Ali translation? Yusuf Ali translation, number one, the English is quite archaic, and number two, in certain places it's like I wouldn't really agree with why did he choose that specific translation, because it all goes down to the Arabic as well. So sometimes I have my own personal issue on certain things that he's mentioned, and I know some scholars have taken like about 500 mistakes out of it or something like that. Yeah, Dr. Ahmad Zaki Hamad, I think that's the one. I stopped sparring because we cannot strike on the head. What if you use headgear? Again, the issue of striking of the head, I mean, what I would say is this: if you don't do it hard, if you don't like aim, your aim is to really hit the head. If it's just for sparring purposes, and you're not gonna, then I think it should be okay. Even if you wear headgear, if you really hit someone in the head, you can really damage the head. Yeah, so I mean, I do sparring, I do boxing, I do Muay Thai, and that's the rules that I follow. So we spar, and even if we like aim for the head, we don't do it hard so the other person can block. Okay, how do we increase himma, aspiration? How do you increase it? Number one, to increase himma, aspiration, be in the company of people with high aspirations. That's what you need to do. And number two is read stories of people with high aspirations. That's the best way to increase himma and aspirations. Can you clarify the difference? What is Sharia law, fiqh, and usul fiqh? Okay, difference between Sharia law, fiqh, and usul fiqh. Okay, understand like this. Okay, imagine Sharia is the ultimate law of Allah. Fiqh is a person's interpretation of that law, and usul fiqh is the methodology that he uses to interpret that law. Okay, so for example, understand like this: imagine in a person's mind there's the ultimate cake. That's the Sharia. And then imagine there's someone who tries to get all these ingredients to try and bake the cake. Okay, so those ingredients that he uses in the way he puts them together, that's called the usul fiqh. And the final cake that he makes, his own personal cake, that's called fiqh. So basically, when you read a book of fiqh, that book of fiqh is basically the scholars' efforts in trying to understand what Allah wants us to do in the world, and the method they've used to reach that result is called usul fiqh. Okay, some people have this Dr. Zakir Naik about something to do with Yazid. I'm not sure. In Yusuf Ali translated Buruj as zodiacal signs. Yeah, I mean Imam Suyuti, he translates it as well, interprets it as well. The Buruj. Yeah, so I mean zodiacal signs, as in the constellations. If that's what you mean by zodiacal signs, then yes. Imam Suyuti in Al-Jalalain, he does that. According to Hanafi madhab, and Imam Razi as well in Tafsir Mafatih al-Ghaib. According to Hanafi madhab, should a woman place hands on her chest when praying and men on stomach? Yes, it's more preferred. Do you have a syllabus curriculum for learning Arabic, Quran, fiqh? Like which books to study? That's a big question, that is. Yeah, I do. Yeah, if that's your answer. Short and sweet answers. I'm only 10 more minutes, guys, and then I'm gonna call it a day. So, do you have a curriculum for learning Arabic, Quran, fiqh? Yes, I do. My curriculum, I teach online. So I teach 17 lessons I have prepared, which introduces a student into Arabic, gets them confident in learning. Then I have another level they can do after that, which is learning Arabic grammar in depth. And then after that they can apply it further in Quran, and then have fiqh lessons as well. Remember guys, if you want like specific answers, you're gonna have to be more specific. In to give a general kind of question, then sometimes the answer is quite long, so I have to shorten it. Yeah, okay. A brother asked a question regarding istihala. I didn't get back to him on that. So the issue of istihala, if Abdullah is watching, of changing of substances, like for example the gelatin issue. I did speak to a scholar about that, Mufti, one of the Muftis, and he did mention to me his research initially was that the changing of the substance from one substance to another does make something in a different ruling. So for instance, the changing of something haram can be changed to something halal if it goes through such a process where the original substance doesn't remain as it is. And this initially was the issue for gelatin, which some scholars had taken. But then what happened was, I just found this out recently, a couple of months ago, that he changed his opinion on that. And the issue is that no, the gelatin is not halal. The process is not a process which transforms the gelatin from the animal substance into a halal substance. It's not enough transformation that takes place. So it's not a full transformation. So it's not like alcohol becoming vinegar, which is a full transformation. Okay. Is a short back and sides haircut haram? Again, the issue with hair, if it's, number one, if it's there to imitate others who are bad people, then it shouldn't be done. Number two, if it's done in such a way that it's patchy, lots of patches, and you can see clear patches around, then that wouldn't be allowed. Otherwise, I don't see a problem with short back and sides, as long as it's not too evident. Can we make verbal intention before salah? Yeah, you can make verbal intention before salah. Nothing wrong with it. But the main thing is to do it in your heart. Does the word dahaha have anything to do with the shape of an ostrich egg? I have heard some people come up with that. Yeah, that they say it's from dahyun, dahya. Wallahu alam. In Arabic language, yeah, it is dahya, means a ostrich egg. But I think you're talking about fitting it onto like the earth being that shape. Yeah, then wallahu alam. I think it's a bit difficult with the shape of an ostrich egg. I don't know if you've seen an ostrich egg, shape of it. But there is some kind of similarity that it's not fully circle or spherical. But dahawa, it actually means something that spurts out. It's more to do like with like something growing, expanding by spewing out. So you can imagine, like I would say, like a volcano. I think a sheikh that the late, I think he's passed away, Sheikh Najjar, famous Egyptian, who's kind of done this scientific research and found ayats of the Quran that corroborate with it as well. So he's actually mentioned that dahya actually is to do with like the volcano, how they spews out a lava and how it spreads. How do you think one should tackle qada prayers where there is so many to pray and count numerous? Well, I would say inshallah start. If you have lots of qada prayer, start. Inshallah, go for it. And if you pass away, inshallah, your intention was to complete it, and inshallah Allah will deal with you in that kind of way. So start it, do it slowly, bit by bit, doing whatever way you find is easy. Easiest way some people find it is that with every salat they just do a qada. That's all. Is your curriculum available online or the Arabic classes? Yeah, I do online. What's your opinion on uploading books, lectures online, which are normally worth in the hundreds from shops? This all goes down to copyright laws, and scholars differ in regard to copyright laws. What I would say is this: if it's if it's a book that's very expensive to get, a lot of us can't afford some books. Go into the thousands, Arabic books. So it's very difficult to get access to them. So then I wouldn't see a problem with that. But there are some scholars I know who morally they say it's not good. Ustad Nabil Khalidi has refuted Zakir Naik view of Dahaha. Okay, alhamdulillah. Can someone who follows the Hanafi school of thought marry someone who says they are Salafi? Yeah, it's fine. Nothing wrong with that. If a brother is interested in marrying someone, how should he propose if he doesn't know them, the father mahram? Okay, the way I would say to do it, it all differs with regards to society. Yeah, different societies have different ways. So what I would say is, like, one way you could do it is maybe approach the family. Another way you could possibly do it is approach someone who can approach the family. Maybe another way you can do it is to tell your family to speak to their family. Maybe, one way maybe you can do it is you can ask someone to speak to the sister to speak to their family. Yeah, eventually you have to get to the family. Yeah, so might as well make a shortcut, get straight to the family. Okay guys, just 5 more minutes left. No more questions? You guys enjoying the cold weather outside? Alhamdulillah, no snow this year. Well, in Birmingham, that is. I don't know about where you guys are from. Email address, yeah, I'll just write it in here. Learning Deen at gmail.com. Okay, Dr. Shabir, could he ask her personally to speak to family? Possibly. I mean, as long as it doesn't lead to anything bad, yeah. So if you could get in contact with her to speak to her family, yeah, inshallah. Dr. Shabir Ali mentioned there is no punishment for the act of homosexuality. Is this correct in a legitimate Islamic state? I mean, the whole concept of punishments in Islam is a very big topic. Yeah, there's so many different types of it, different aspects of it. So it depends exactly what he said. So you just said that, and I know, that I trust what you've said, but I need to listen to the exact statement that he has said, and then you have to understand the whole concept of punishments to exactly understand what did he mean by it and all that. So sometimes, see what happens, someone asks a question, and that question that someone asks, they think that there's an easy answer for it, that just yes or no. It doesn't work like that. So it's not just black and white. This has sometimes the questioner has to, or the one being questioned has to go through a lot of research to try and understand the answer. Is there any work or books of scholars that have refuted the theory of evolution that you can recommend, and what is your view on it? The issue of evolution, I think Sheikh Dr. what's his name, Qadi Yasir Qadi, I think he's done a good video on it, very, very thorough video. That's quite good. And evolution is a big topic again. Is it evolution of animals? There's a scope there. Is it evolution of human beings? Then that's problematic. And I would say personally that there is scope for animals evolving. That's possible. But with regards to humans, because it's explicit in the Quran that Allah created Adam alayhi salam from the earth, and there's no mention of any other previous creation that he was just from earth. Therefore, Adam alayhi salam was created from earth, and he was sent to earth. Yeah, and that's what I believe. So I don't believe in the evolution of Adam alayhi salam. So inshallah, I'll get in touch with you. End of on some qira'at. Okay, I'll just do a bit of tafsir at the end, inshallah. If you read salawat, does Rasul Allah? No. Does Rasul? No. Who recited the salawats? Is there any hadith? Yeah. There are narrations that mention that the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah has appointed an angel, and whoever sends me salutations, the angels, they convey my salutations to me. So I think this is in Tirmidhi, think it's in Tirmidhi. Can't remember the hadith reference. If you remind me on Facebook, inshallah, you inbox me, I'll send you reference. Does apostasy law change for our times? Apostasy law, again, it's a big discussion, big topic. He says in the Quran there is no punishment mentioned, but isn't there something of throwing someone off a cliff in a hadith? No, there's nothing in a hadith about throwing someone off a cliff. That's an opinion of scholars. If you have all the answers, very beneficial. Jazakallah khair, guys. Okay, so you're welcome, guys. You're welcome. MashaAllah. Hope you guys have benefited. I'm sorry I couldn't explain all your answers in detail. Some of the questions, mashallah, were very interesting. So inshallah, I'm gonna finish off on some Quran. Okay. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. Allah says in the Quran, opening verses of Surah Baqarah. I don't want to go through the whole verses, but I just want to mention certain aspects of it. Allah mentions, first of all, about the status of the Quran, that there is no doubt at all in the Quran. The only doubts that come in the Quran are from human beings, and that's when two things happen. Number one, when a person is not willing to open their minds, open their hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words. And number two is that a person does not have full understanding of the meanings of the words. Otherwise, if a person has full understanding of the meanings like the Sahaba did, and number two, if a person is willing to open their hearts, open their minds to what Allah Ta'ala is saying, then Allah Ta'ala, He gives us the virtue of taqwa, gives us the status of taqwa. Hudan lil muttaqeen, guidance for those people who have taqwa. Now Allah mentions 5 things here. Number 1 is aqimus salat, yu'minuna bil ghaib, to believe in that which is unseen. And this is very important for us in a time that we're living in, where everything demands that we understand and our senses are able to detect something before we believe in it. We only believe that it's daytime when we see the light. We only believe that something is hot when we touch it. We only believe that something is tasty when we eat it. Whereas the Quran is something which is a divine revelation from Allah, and our smell, our hearing, our taste, our touching, all our senses are beyond the Quran. And if it was not for the Prophet ﷺ, then we would not have the Quran. No way of us knowing what Allah wanted from us. So this is the first and foremost thing, to take our intellects and to first of all submit our intellect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to accept that the Quran is totally from Allah. Secondly is aqimus salat, establishing salat. So establishing salat, it's an epitome of our ibadah to Allah, bodily worship that we do to Allah. All the acts in the Quran to do with bodily worship are summarized in aqimus salat. And third is وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, spending from what Allah Ta'ala has given us. We have to realize that financially, we are the ones that have to support our society. Even though we say Allah Ta'ala, He has created the universe and He's supporting it, that's fine, but Allah uses people to do things. He utilizes our efforts. So financially, we have to create a society. We have to use our money not only for ourselves, but also for our Muslim brothers and sisters, and outer community out there as well, for the non-Muslims as well, so that we're able to live in a society which is able to sustain itself. Number 4 is we have to live in a society which tolerates others as well. So we have to believe in the Quran, and we believe in that which was revealed both before the Prophet ﷺ, the Jews and the Christians. And like the Quran mentions about, our relationship with them has to be a tolerant relationship as well. And finally, number 5 is Allah mentions about having certitude in the hereafter. Having certitude in the hereafter is a very important point, because certitude in the hereafter will sum up for us what kind of actions we do in this world. When a person works for a company and knows that every Friday that the boss is going to call them and going to play back to them every single thing that they've done in the day or in the week, and is going to mention to them every statement that they mentioned, every phone call they made, every email they sent out, you're going to be very cautious about what you do in the week. Why? Because you know you're going to be taken to account. So likewise, if we know a day is going to come where we're going to be taken to account, Allah is going to question us, Allah is going to ask us, Allah is going to say, where did you use your eyes? What did you look at? What did you eat? What did you drink? What did you say? If we know we're going to be questioned, inna sam'a wal basara wal fu'ad, Allah says, kul ulaika kana anhu mas'ula. A man will be questioned about everything he hears, he sees, and everything he utters. So this is why it's very important for us to have the certitude of the hereafter. And it's interesting here as well, Allah says, وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. Now normally in Arabic you say yuqinuna bil akhirah, the verb comes first, but here Allah deliberately brings bil akhirah first. Why? To show the exclusivity, the hereafter's yaqeen, certitude. You have to be so sure in the hereafter that you need to be more sure the hereafter is coming than you know that it's nighttime now, or that the sun's out in the day. That's how sure you need to be. And finally, if you have these 5 qualities in your life, not only are you considered from a person of taqwa, but also 2 rewards Allah gives you. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَى هُدًى مِّن رَبِّهِمْ. Allah says these people are upon guidance, just like if you're on a train that's going to London or Manchester. If you get onto that train, you're not going to get lost, because that train will get you to your destination. So Allah promises that a person who applies these 5 things into their life is on guidance. And number 2 is Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, that those people are going to be successful. And muflih, it comes from the word fallah, which means a farmer. And because he goes through a lot of toil and difficulty and hardship in trying to grow his crops, eventually after so much hard work he gets the results. Likewise a believer, after so much hard work in life, Allah is going to give a believer, He promises that He'll give a believer success. But success isn't going to come easy. It's going to come with a lot of effort as well. So we have to remember, just because we pray 5 times a day, just because we do hijab, just because we try and implement Allah's laws into our lives, success is not going to come overnight. So we have to try and apply them as best as possible and wait for the promise of Allah to manifest somewhere down the line, inshallah, in our lives. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah give us the ability to be able to practice these and apply these in our life. Jazakallah khair, guys. Take care, and hopefully see you guys next time. Inshallah, we have a question answer session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.